You know that simple ritual millions of us do every single morning? We cut open a packet of milk. It's supposed to be a symbol of health, right? Of nourishment, something we give our families without even thinking twice. But what happens when that simple act of trust starts to get a little cloudy? Okay, let's get into it.
See, when we buy branded, packaged milk, we're not just buying, milk. We're buying a promise. And that promise really boils down to a few key things. First up, purity. The guarantee that what's inside is clean and untainted.
Then, of course, there's health. That's the whole point, isn't it? We're bringing it home for our families because we believe it's good for them, that it'll nourish them.
And the final piece, the one that really holds it all together, is trust. We trust the name on that packet to actually deliver on those first two promises, day in and day out.
But what if that purity isn't really there? What if the health benefits are actually at risk? What happens when that trust, that cornerstone, just breaks?
You see, for decades, Mother Dairy wasn't just another brand. It was pretty much the benchmark for safety. It had government roots, right? The National Dairy Development Board. So for the Indian middle class, it was seen as the clean, totally reliable alternative to just getting loose milk from a local vendor. It meant peace of mind.
And that's exactly why what happened in 2015 was such a shock to the system. It was this jarring moment when the first major cracks started to appear in that solid foundation of trust.
So here's the rundown. The Food and Drug Administration in Uttar Pradesh went and collected some milk samples from Mother Dairy's procurement chain. And when the lab test came back, whoa. The results declared the samples were substandard. And one of them, get this, allegedly had traces of detergent. As you can imagine, this became a national headline overnight, sparking widespread panic.
Now, why is finding detergent so alarming? Well, it's not just some random accidental contamination. It's literally a tool for faking it. It's used to make milk that's been watered down look thick, white, and foamy again, essentially to trick you into thinking you're getting pure, rich milk when you're not.
Okay, so as you'd expect, Mother Dairy immediately went into defense mode. And their argument was actually very, very specific. They basically said, hold on a second. That sample you tested, it was taken from loose, raw milk at a village collection point. This was before it ever hit our processing lines, before it went through our 23 quality checks. Their whole point was, this is not the finished product you buy in the store.
But that defense, it didn't really put people at ease. In fact, it kind of backfired, raising an even bigger, more troubling question. Okay, so if tainted milk is making it all the way to your front door, how good is your system really? How can you be so sure you catch every single bad batch?
And this really gets to the heart of the problem. This was never about just one bad sample. It blew the lid off how vulnerable these massive milk supply chains truly are.
Just think about the journey that milk takes. It passes through so many hands. Right at the start, at the farmer level, someone could add water or worse, chemicals. Then it gets to a chilling center, and maybe a middleman messes with the fat content. And the whole time, if the cooling system, the cold chain, fails, you've got bacteria growing like crazy. Every single step is a place where things can go wrong. So after a while, things quieted down, The story faded from the headlines. But then, fast forward to 2026, and suddenly those old doubts are bubbling back up, but with a whole new set of fears. This time, it wasn't about chemicals. It was something else entirely.
So it's really important we get the distinction here. The 2015 crisis was all about chemical adulteration, someone deliberately adding stuff like detergent. But these newer concerns in 2026, they were about microbial contamination. That means a really high bacterial count, which points to problems with hygiene and storage, not necessarily someone trying to pull a fast one.
So after some new tests went viral online, boom, social media just lit up with complaints from consumers. People were talking about all sorts of things, a soapy smell, a weird medicine-like odor, even a chemical taste. Some folks said the paneer they made from the milk had this strange plastic or synthetic feel to it. It just shows how quickly that trust can start to crumble.
And that's really the crux of it, isn't it? This isn't some fancy, once-in-a-while treat. Milk is a daily staple. It's for everyone, kids, older folks, everyone in between.
The scary part here isn't some dramatic, one-time poisoning event. No, the real danger is the idea of slow, unnoticed ingestion. A little bit, day after day, all while you're feeling safe and comfortable with that trusted brand name on the packet.
That's the key word, daily. Kids, people who are sick, the elderly, they're the most vulnerable. And when you've got a product that's consumed that often, any compromise in its safety, well, that's not just a small problem. That's a huge public health concern.
So all of this just forces us to step back and ask a much bigger question. I mean, if even the most trusted household names are facing these kinds of repeated questions about quality, what are we really paying for when we buy branded milk? Is it a genuine guarantee of purity, or is it just better packaging?
So maybe the next time you go to pour a glass of milk, you just pause for a second. Is what you're holding pure nourishment, or is it just perfectly packaged uncertainty? And that question right there, that's the real crisis of trust.
All right, let's talk about something millions of us do every single day, almost without thinking, drinking a glass of milk. But what if I told you that simple act is actually more of a gamble than you realize?
You know the drill. Maybe you go for the legacy of Amul, or maybe you trust the government-backed image of Mother Dairy. Heck, maybe you're paying a premium for Country Delight, banking on that promise of freshness. But a recent investigation is asking a pretty terrifying question. Which one of these is actually safer?
You know, in millions and millions of homes, the day kicks off with that same familiar sound.
That simple, almost automatic act of pouring the day's first, most essential drink.
And then the final step for safety, right? A habit passed down for generations. But here's the thing. Is it enough? A brand new lab report has just uncovered a truth that no TV ad could ever hide.
Okay, let's get right into this. Back in February of 2026, an independent testing platform did a full microbiological analysis on these huge popular milk brands. And just to be clear, this wasn't some kind of taste test. This was a test for all the stuff you can't see.
The main thing they were looking for was something called the total plate count, or TPC. All you really need to know is this. This number tells you exactly how clean and hygienically handled the milk is. A low number? Great. A high number? Well, that's a massive red flag.
And the first result was for one of the most trusted names in the entire country. The report found that Mother Dairy's TPC was, well, get ready for this.
It was a shocking 8 times higher than the acceptable limit. You know, the one set by the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. 8 times. That is not a small oops. That's a huge margin of error.
Okay, so what about the fancy one? The premium, farm-fresh option that promises you superior quality. Surely that's got to be different, right?
Nope. The report showed Country Delight's sample was also over the limit, 2 times higher than the benchmark. So that premium price tag, it definitely did not guarantee premium safety.
And here's the really unsettling bottom line from all this. When it came to those super popular pouch formats, not a single one of the tested brands, not Amul, not Mother Dairy, and not Country Delight, got a completely clean bill of health.
So, if none of them were perfect, who was the riskiest? Let's break down these findings and see what the data really tells us about the milk sitting in our refrigerators right now.
So in terms of just the sheer bacterial count in those pouch samples, Mother Dairy raised the biggest red flag, by far. Country Delight came in second, which has to be a huge blow to its whole premium image. And then you've got Amul, which turns out to be a much more interesting and kind of complicated picture.
And this right here, this slide reveals a super important detail. The packaging makes a massive difference. While Amul's pouch milk did have contamination issues, their milk in the UHT Tetra Pak, it passed with flying colors. We're talking 0 microorganisms found. This kind of suggests the problem might be bigger than just one brand, doesn't it?
Yeah, this really suggests the issue isn't just about what's happening inside the factory walls. It's about the entire fragile ecosystem that's supposed to get the milk from the farm all the way to your home.
Look, a breakdown can happen at any one of these 5 stages. It could start right at procurement, maybe unclean containers or poor animal hygiene. Then you have the chilling delay. Milk is like a perfect breeding ground for microbes, and every hour it sits at the wrong temperature, the bacteria can just double. At pasteurization, if the temperature's off by a little, some bacteria can survive. The packing stage can introduce new contaminants if the lines aren't sterile. And finally, and this is a big one, retail and storage. Just think about a shopkeeper who turns off the fridge overnight to save on the electricity bill. Any single failure along this chain compromises the milk you end up buying.
And you know what? People are catching on. This comment from a Reddit discussion on the topic just hits the nail on the head. By the time that pouch reaches you, it might have a trusted brand name on it, but it may no longer be, well, fresh, at least not microbiologically.
So, after all that, what does this actually mean for you when you're standing in the dairy aisle? Based on the data from this one test, here is the brutally honest ranking of your options.
It looks like your safest bet is Amul, but specifically in the UHT or Tetra Pak format, which passed the sterile test clean. Among the pouches, Amul's reported TPC was at least less alarming than the others.
Country Delight sits in third because its premium promise just didn't hold up. And at the bottom, raising the most concern based on this single report was Mother Dairy's pouch milk, with the highest bacterial count of the whole group.
This one investigation completely shatters some of the beliefs we've held for, forever. It shows that expensive milk isn't automatically safer. An old trusted brand isn't automatically safer. And nope, a government-linked brand isn't automatically safer either. So where does that leave us, the people who actually drink this stuff? Well, it leaves us with a very, very unsettling truth about a choice we make every single day. The reality is, we've kind of moved past the ideal of choosing the purest, most healthy option. We are now in the business of damage control, of simply trying to choose the packet that we hope carries the least amount of risk.
So the next time you're standing in front of that refrigerator, just remember this. You're not really comparing brands or prices or all those flashy marketing promises. You're comparing levels of uncertainty, and that is a really sobering thought to start your day with.